Addiction is the epidemic of our generation. Every 4 minutes, people are overdosing in the U.S. Drugs and alcohol are tearing our families apart. The only way to combat addiction is through proper treatment and customized care. As people are slipping into the grips of addiction, nationwide Banyan Treatment Center facilities stand as the leader in providing growth through recovery. Addiction does not discriminate. Do not let yourself or someone you know become another devastating statistic. Call now, 855-6-BANYAN.
So my name is Abby Letcher, as you just heard. I'm really happy to be here to celebrate healing and recovery with all of you. I work in Allentown. I'm a family doctor, so I'm going to be talking about how primary care looks at all of this and how do I look at this as a primary care doctor. I work at the neighborhood health centers of the Lehigh Valley. We got our people over here. I live in Allentown with my husband, my dog, and my cat. And I've learned here in Allentown so much about the beauty and strength of all of you and my neighbors, my friends, and my patients. So what I want to do today is share with you 4 sentences that remind me every day what my job is and how to do it right. At NHCLV, we've been on this amazing journey. We've been trying to figure out what is the health center that our community needs and how to be a place of healing and welcome, or a place of change. Back in 2012, when we were just a little baby health center, we launched this project called the Lehigh Valley Superutilizer Partnership. We took on the sickest patients in the Lehigh Valley, people who were going from hospital to hospital and not getting well, and we tried to help them get their lives back. It was really messy work, and there's no manual for that kind of stuff. We called it untangling spaghetti, where we tried to figure out what was going wrong in the system and what was getting people stuck. So these 4 sentences, they became our philosophy of care. As NHCLV has been diving into the whole world of addictions and treating opiate use disorders with buprenorphine or with Vivitrol, with MAT, I've carried these sentences with me. So I want to share them with you tonight because they have power. Ready? All right. First sentence. Everyone has a story. Yeah. Everyone has the capacity within themselves to heal. Healing happens in relationships, and relationships happen in community. Feels really good to say those out loud right here, so I'm going to go a little deeper. Everyone has a story. I want to tell you about a friend and a patient that I've known for over 7 years. I want to tell you about him because I've learned more from him about the heart of healthcare than I learned from anyone in 20 years of practice. He taught me and our team at NHCLV, and he teaches our residents at family medicine at Lehigh Valley, and he's learned at the same time what his own healing looks like. So the first story I learned about this man was written in his medical record, and it's a shocking story. I'll take you back a few years. It's about 7 years ago. He's in his early 30s. And for the last year, he's been in the hospital more than out, about 2 admissions every month. His body suffered incredible damage from diabetes. His kidneys failed, we put him on dialysis. His eyes failed, we removed his eyes. His circulation failed, we removed parts of both his legs. His heart failed, we put stents in his arteries, and we put him on a whole pile of medications. This is what I read in his medical record before I even meet him. I also read things there that are less medical. He's angry, he's difficult, he demands pain medication, he didn't take care of himself. This is the story the medical record tells. It's not his story. It's the story that our medical system has attached to him, and it's the story of stigma and exclusion. It follows him every time he's admitted to the hospital. So why are stories so important? Stories have power. Stories can heal, but stories can do harm too. Stories have power to show us who we are and who we aren't. Good stories are how we humans learn about each other. It's how we communicate our values, how we humanize the unknown, and how we see the world. Hearing stories from other people can challenge our biases and our assumptions. It can take apart the stereotypes and the simplifications that we use to separate ourselves from people or situations that frighten us or make us feel powerless. doctors and nurses need better stories. Because we feel powerless all the time. We have a lot of power, and sometimes we misuse it badly, like you heard in some of the things that I read in his medical record. But the thing is that we always fall short, because we can't cure death, we can't cure poverty, and we can't cure pain. My friend and his suffering, his medical story, that confronts us with our powerlessness. So how do we make sense out of that? One answer is distance, blame, judgment. If we blame our patients, we don't have to accept our own failing. We might feel better, or we might not feel anything at all. Our medical story about him might separate us from pain and powerlessness. But we need a better story. We need a healing story. So my friend has his own story. And I only know some of it. I hold dear the parts that he's shared with me and the parts that we've created together. I learned from his story who he is. He's a father. He's a son. His heart knows how to forgive, even when it's hard. He's stubborn. He's tough. He is not his medical record. He's so much more than that. Everyone has a story, and it is our responsibility as healers to hear it. Number 2, everyone has capacity within themselves to heal. So let's call this the democracy of healing, because hospitals don't own health, doctors don't own health, nurses don't own health. It isn't something that we can give to you. It isn't something that we can take away from you. We can't divide it. We can't portion it out. Health is something we all create. Healing and the restoration of health, wholeness, recovery starts inside ourselves. So here's a little bit of healing. My friend came in to see me one day, and the way I do sometimes, I asked him, what's something good that happened since the last time I saw you? And he said, well, I found my dad. Stunned silence. I've never heard him mention his dad, just about growing up in the system. So we talked a lot more about his being a dad, about trying to do better with his health and to go to his daughter's games, about how talented she is, how proud he is of her, how important it is to be there for her. But he goes on to tell me that he thought his dad was dead, but his cousin replied on Facebook that he knew where he was. He hadn't heard from his dad in over 10 years, and his first response is that he wants to go see him. Sometimes I don't really get it right. I had this mama bear thing, it came up right up in my heart, and I had trouble for a while understanding how he would have that generosity to open up to a man that he hasn't heard from in years, who maybe didn't show him everything a father could be, maybe came up a little short. But not my friend. He showed me what healing looks like. It looks like a man who so values and loves being a dad that he'll offer and restore that love, whether his dad deserves it or not. It looks like the ability to put down resentment and value connection. He chose to be open and vulnerable rather than to count all the ways his dad might have let him down in the past, or might even still let him down. He found his dad that day, and he had some joy in that. Generosity, vulnerability, joy, love. And preparation, but at the heart, generosity, vulnerability, joy, and love. So these build resilience. When you get knocked down, you can still bounce back up. And the power of healing, and I think the power of recovery, is the power to find meaning, wholeness, and joy in life every day, even when it happened, even when something hurt yesterday, and even if it might hurt again tomorrow. All right, another sentence. Yeah. Healing happens in relationships. So we talk about healing relationships at NHCLV, and our patients tell us that that's about safety, about trust, about honesty, and about caring. To be the health center that our community needs and deserves, we have to be able to practice that with everybody who wants to come to us, anyone that walks through the door. And we call that radical welcome. We have to put aside our biases and assumptions and be ready to welcome everybody. Yesterday, I was at a fireside chat with Dr. Batts and the Promised Neighborhoods, and the crowd was talking about the pain and the impact of growing up like my friend grew up, excluded, stigmatized, where the only place that welcomed him was the streets. And an amazing woman spoke to her experience as a foster kid that changed her whole outlook. And the caseworker looked at her and said, I see you. I see you. And then there was a little opening for healing for her. I see you. Dr. Batts tells me this is a Zulu greeting, and the response is, I am here. My friend feels welcome at NHCLV. He trusts that we see him and we're here for him, and he lets us see ourselves more clearly too. We can disagree, and we do, and he knows I'm still there for him. Here's something interesting about healing relationships, is that we don't give up on you. Even if you show up in withdrawal, or not quite ready to take on recovery, or not really ready to be truthful to me or to yourself, I'll welcome you. We're your health center, and I see you. This is not to say that I will walk away or ignore unhealthy things. When I ignore something, when I avoid an opportunity to help you see yourself clearly or learn about healing, I'm essentially excluding you. So not that. We build trust in the healing relationship so that we can be real and take a good look at what is healthy and what isn't, what hurts and what heals. It takes courage and vulnerability to be honest about what I see and offer love and attention to support healing. So that's radical welcome. I see you right here, right now. Maybe you can see what I see. Healing happens in relationships. And relationships happen in community. So the people I see at NHCLV, while they do wait an awful long time to see me, every time, they actually spend most of their time somewhere else, in their own homes, in their communities, their lives and the meaning they make out of it, the wholeness, the relationships, that all happens someplace else. The last sentence reminds me that my job is to support you, to connect and build healing relationships out there in the world, everywhere you go. Relationships happen in community. So this also reminds me that my own work doesn't stop in the health center. I'm part of a community too. I'm part of this community that suffered multiple losses to overdoses in the last 2 weeks. I'm part of this community that has a widening gap between the rich and the poor. I'm part of this community that makes me ache with its beauty. So how do we take that radical welcome beyond the health center and build the kinds of inclusive, welcoming communities that we can all live and thrive in? This is our healing landscape. It's ours to create. Events like this one, like the Rally in the Valley, our community exchange, the Promise Neighborhoods, Power Northeast, they make a difference and they create opportunities for recovery and healing for our whole community. Edgar Kahn, who's one of my heroes and the founder of time banking, has a rallying cry. He says, no more throwaway people. Let's make the Lehigh Valley a place where everyone has value, where everyone has a chance to contribute, where we heal together, we help each other, and we organize to eliminate exclusion and stigma. Let's make this a place where everyone can find respect and confidence to dig into the process of healing and recovery. Let's make this a place where we support each other in all our messiness and all our vulnerability, all our mistakes, to get stronger and more resilient and more powerful together. Thanks.